Hello, my friends. Well, yep, we're back in the kitchen again. A while back, I actually did a video pretty much on how to make individual pizza crust and never an actual pizza crust or a pizza. Now, I did show pizza crust in non-style for Mediterranean, which is basically not just Mediterranean, but it's for everyday life. And then there was a low carb version. Well, again today, I'm actually going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be doing a low carb 14-inch or 12-inch pizza. This way, there's enough for everybody in your family if this is what you do, or leftovers for you to put in your freezer. Or the other way would be basically, now it's not an actual pizza crust, but it could be, I guess. It's considered a flatbread. And so instead of doing an actual crust for me, I am actually going to be doing a flatbread. And the reason for it is it's a lot thinner, and I am actually going to be making me a Mediterranean pizza, and I'm going to be making a low carb pizza. From the crust all the way to the toppings, I am going to show you how you can bring a pizza to your family in either way, normal life without any restrictions, to a life with restrictions, which we like to pretend that we're normal. So, and you know what? We are normal. We just have to do things unique, which makes us very special, is how I love it, and we are special. So I am going to show both ways on how we can enjoy a pizza on a Friday night. But for me, my Friday night's Wednesday, because it's been several weeks, y'all, since I had a pizza, and I'm kind of craving a pizza. So here I am. So let's go to the kitchen and have some fun. Okay, y'all. So the first one I'm actually going to be doing is the non-crust for the Mediterranean pizza. Now, I will tell you, the reason I decided to do the 12 inches, the last time I made a pizza, which were the individuals out of the pita, again, it's going to be by Ketoserts. The last time I made him his individual pizza, I'm going to tell you, my husband is spoiled rotten. He liked it, but it wasn't as fluffy or as thick, I should say. It wasn't as thick as he liked the last one. So I'm going to be making his thick crust, and you will see how that works. But first, before I go to that one, I'm actually going to be going to the non-bread. So we're going to start with this one with a teaspoon of sugar. Now, I will not be consuming this sugar. The yeast is going to be consuming it. So I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon of sugar. I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon of instant dry yeast and 3/4 cups of 100 to 110 degree water. I'm actually going to proof and bloom this yeast. So I'm going to set it aside for about 5 to 10 minutes and let this thing bloom. Once it blooms, I will come back and we will finish with the rest of the ingredients. And the reason I started this one first, both have to sit for a time, but this one doesn't have to sit for as long as the keto version does. And both will be made with yeast. So there's this. I'm going to let it bloom, cover this up, and in approximately about 5 minutes, I will be back to finish this. Okay, y'all, so our yeast mix has pretty much set here and bloomed a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead with the next ingredients. The next ingredients will be 2 cups of flour. You can use any flour you would like, all-purpose or whatever. I'm actually using a unbleached bread flour, more of a whole grain version. So I'm just going to add this to my bowl. I'm going to get 1 teaspoon of salt. And I'm using Himalayan sea salt. And 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And now I'm going to stir this all together. Alright. You can do this in a mixer. I chose not to do this in a mixer because some people don't have that. So I'm going to show you a way that you can make this without one. So I'm actually going to use my hands, y'all. I do this a lot in my own home, so I'm just going to show you how you can make your own. This will be very sticky. You're going to bring this together and incorporate all of that flour into this mix. Just like so. And I'm going to save this bowl because I'm going to grease it, and this is where my mix or my flatbread is going to sit until its 45 minutes resting time is up. So now at this point I've got it all together. I'm going to actually spread some flour onto my board where I'm going to knead it a little bit. And I'm just going to get it to the consistency where it's not sticky. There isn't really a certain amount of time that I'm going to do this for. I'm just going to incorporate this flour mix until it's just to the point of not being sticky. So I'm going to take this. Now you can put flour on your hands to keep from having this stick to you. But hey, what's the fun of playing with your food if you can't have it stick to you, right? I know that was crazy. Sorry, y'all. But I enjoy my kitchen. I enjoy what I do. So now I'm just going to take, and it's not heavily, it looks like it was heavy, but it's not basically too heavy. I just spread it out a little bit. I'm just actually wanting to incorporate just enough flour to where I can get it where it's not sticky. And see, it's not sticking to my hands now. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring it around, make my ball. And now I am going to grease my bowl. After I get some of this off of this as well. I'll redo that. Just a second. Alright, so now I'm going to redo that part just a little bit more since I put those little bits in there. Not that it's going to hurt nothing. And I'm actually going to save the rest of this flour, put it in a dish, because I'm going to actually be adding this again after its resting point. And I am going to be putting this one in my dehydrator. It does have a bread proofing. So I'm going to actually put that in there and let this proof for a little bit where it keeps it warm, because my AC is on and I have to do 2 different types of crust. So I'm going to have 2 in each different direction. Now I'm going to just lightly grease my bowl here all the way around it. I'm going to put my flatbread in here, roll it on the top, flip it over. That way it's nice, lightly greased. I am going to cover this. And now I'm going to make this rest for 45 minutes. Once 45 minutes is up on this one, we'll be going and preparing the crust. In the meantime, I'm going to clear all this off and get it ready for the low carb pizza crust. Okay, y'all, so here we go with this one. Now this one will be done in the mixer. There is going to be a whole lot more ingredients, and again, because this is low carb, this will also be weighed. It is better to weigh it than it is natural, standard what do you call it, measurements. However, I'm going to do my best to convert these measurements for you as well. So I need to start with proofing my yeast. So I'm starting out with 8 grams of instant dry yeast, which comes out to be approximately 2¼ teaspoons of active dry yeast. I am going to add 1 teaspoon or 7 grams of honey. Again, this will not be consumed by anybody, and no diabetic. This will be fed or used for feeding the yeast only. So I'm going to add, as soon as I can get my honey open. Now this one I did not weigh. I pretty much know what this one's going to be, so I'm just going to add my 1 teaspoon of honey to this. Again, this is just to feed the yeast. You will never have this entered into your body. It's just going to make those little yeast particles very happy. And I'm going to add 120 milliliters, which is approximately a half a cup of warm water between 110 and 120, or 100 to 110 degrees. And I'm going to do just like my other one and mix this really well. And set this aside. And again, allow this to proof and bloom. Once this does that, we will go on to our next ingredients. And we will be right back. Okay, so our yeast is now proofed, and we're going to go ahead and start with the rest of the ingredients. Now, I already started weighing most of this because it will just cut down the time in putting this together. But now our next ingredients. Now I will tell you, if you do not have these products, I will let you know where I found them, what brand I got. So I am using Vital Wheat gluten. Most everything that I could not find in a grocery store came from Amazon, y'all. Now this one, my Vital Wheat gluten, I actually got Anthony's. It was one of the most reasonablest product that I could find, and honestly it works. So this one is from Anthony's, Vital Wheat gluten, and I need 95 grams of this. So I'm going to add that into my mix. The next ingredient is I need 37 grams of flaxseed meal. Now you can find this organic flaxseed cold milled over at Amazon, or not Amazon, Walmart. You can find that in the baker's aisle. So it's just nothing but ground flaxseed is all it is. So that's going in here, and that was 37 grams of this. Now the texture to this will be kind of spongy, I will let you know, but it actually comes out in the end tasting like a whole wheat crust, honestly, and that's what my husband describes it. He actually prefers this crust over the individual because it is airy, fluffy, kind of sort of bread-like, and he just absolutely enjoys it. So I'll keep making it as long as he can enjoy it and know that he has something better than nothing, so he can enjoy pizza with me. And I have to really watch everything when I'm mixing ingredients like this so that I don't combine it with his and spike his sugar. So the next ingredient, now this one is from Modern Mountain Flour Company. This again is off of Amazon, and it is oat fiber. I need 25 grams of this oat fiber. Now these I have not converted into cups or anything, y'all, because I'm going to tell you, it works out better. I have done both ways. Some of them will give me the weigh by measurement, you know, that we know. through cups and teaspoons, and others were by grams like I'm doing. And I'm going to tell you, the grams came out far better than those that were estimated for our standard measurements. So I am looking to get 25 grams of oat fiber. It takes a little time to do this, but it is worth it when a product works out better. I just keep plugging along until I actually get what I need. Almost there. Slightly over. You might never get it completely, but if you can get it close enough, it works. Okay. I got it close enough to that. So 25 grams of oat fiber goes in here next. Clear this out. Now I'm using, now this one I'm not going to weigh because I pretty much know, and this one is pretty accurate. So 0.5 grams of xanthan gum comes out to be a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. So I'm going to be adding that 1/4 teaspoon to this. I will give you the macros and the counts for everything as soon as I get this mix started and in the process of letting this rise, because it's going to take an hour for this one. I now need, let's see, 13 grams of a powdered sugar substitute. And this can be any sugar substitute of your choice. Okay, let's see here. Let me get a fresh spoon here. And I'm going to add 13 grams of this. Now this can, it's so lightweight. Oh, so close. And that's it. So there's my 13 grams of powdered sugar substitute that I'm adding in here. And last, I am adding 1 large egg at room temperature. And then I'm going to take this to the mixer. We're going to mix this all up. Go ahead and turn my scale off. So now I'm going to take this to the mixer and I'm going to mix this up. Okay, in each step I'm going to take this instead of you bringing to the mixer. Now this is right now kind of sticky, so I'm going to let this knead. But at this point, when it comes together like this, you want to add 1 tablespoon of softened butter to this, and then you're going to knead this until it is kind of elastic, like you would kneading bread. You want the elasticity in this. The wheat gluten will take some time and then to absorb all of that water. So right now I am going to go ahead and cut my 1 tablespoon of butter, and I am going to add that into my bread mix to give that silky look and that buttery flavor. So once I get this done, I will show you in the end what this will look like before we get it to rest. Okay, y'all, so this is the texture we're looking for. where everything pretty much in my bowl has come together. Get some of this butter didn't get completely in here, but for the most part our bowl is pretty clean. Then when we take our mix out, it's no longer sticky and sticking to our hands, and it has the elasticity that it needs for stretching. So now I'm going to, just like my other one, form this into a ball. Now this has pretty much been greased because of the tablespoon of butter that was already in it. So I'm actually going to put this in here, and again we're going to cover this one just like our last one, and we're going to let this one rest until doubled in size for about an hour. Now again, the texture on this, and let me get this put up in the oven where it's a bit warmer, and I'll try to describe the texture. You will, and I will show it to you once it starts to rise, but it will rise like this pillowy type of texture. Again, it will not taste, it will be light, it will be airy, but it will have a nice pleasant, I've eaten it before with my husband, and I actually enjoyed it. It had that flavor of a whole wheat to me and him, yet it was fluffy and thick enough for pizza. It was just, honestly, this was the first pizza crust. And look, we've tried the chicken, we've tried the cauliflower, we've tried the cheese-based fathead doughs, we tried many types of crust to make a pizza. We've tried the pitas, we tried all of it, y'all. This one, Ketoserts, has a way of having certain type of bread products like this, like homemade pita, homemade pizza crust, that absolutely works. So we stick with what works, and we don't play with no more. Once we went through the search and trials and errors of what worked for our family, I wrote the recipe down, and it's been a keeper and my go-to ever since. I just won't change from that. And that's how you're going to find from now on. When we find that go-to, once it is written in my book, y'all, that's it. There will be no more studying. There will be no more searching. These will the products we will use from here on through. So, and if it's not for you, I totally understand that. You might want to find out which one is for you until, like us, you find that right one, write it down, and it's your go-to. So right now we've got both mine and his crusts. And basically we've got two crusts. We have a flatbread that we're going to be using for a Mediterranean pizza, or you can use it for an all-around, all-American pizza for those who don't have anything that would spike your sugar or nothing, or who doesn't have health-related issues. But those who do have, like my husband with diabetes, I also have a low-carb version. So now I will tell you the products that we will be using here for usually low carb. A lot of people like to add that extra fat. In our process here, we're not looking too much as far with my husband as low carb or low fat anymore as we are, or high fat due to weight. We are just looking to control his diabetes. So on the meat source that I am going to be using, I'm going to be using a 70% leaner, less fat turkey pepperoni, but that doesn't mean everything is low fat. So I will forewarn you, we will be using pepperoni, but it's going to be a turkey based. So I'm going to let these crusts right now do their thing, rest and rise, and we will be back to make our pizza. Okay, y'all, so on that low-carb pizza crust, here is the carb count and the counts to this thing. It will make a approximately 12 to 14 inch size pizza, round pizza. You will get approximately 8 slices, so it serves 8. Per slice, you are going to get 1.8 grams of net carbs. You're going to get 5.5 grams of fiber, 9.6 grams of protein, 3.8 grams of fat, and 82 calories. Now mind you, this is for just the dough alone. This is not for the toppings that go on the top of it. So this pizza crust that serves 8, you are looking at 1.8 grams per slice on just the dough. So that's pretty low if you ask me. So, and that does leave room, if you're low carb like us, there's so many different names. I just call it low carb, y'all. So my husband's limit is between 50 to 80 grams a day. It's sufficient enough to keep his diabetes down. So if you're between that, that leaves plenty of room to be able to put nice toppings on the top. So, and we pretty much keep it less than that because of the toppings that we use and the cheese and the bases, and just like that turkey that I'm going to be using, the pepperoni, 17 pieces is even only 70 calories. So, and there's absolutely no carbs in it at all. There's no sugar in it. So that's a topping we call a free topping. So I just thought I'd go ahead and include these macro points, or whatever you want to call them, these points in on this recipe. And again, I will put the recipe and the directions in the description box, along with the carb counts to this as well. Alright, y'all, now you're going to see why I set up this new kitchen area the way I did. It will give you a better perspective to see a lot easier, like when I did before with rolling out dough. So right now we are going to do the first one, and that is the Mediterranean pizza, because that one was put in and prepared a lot sooner than the one that is low carb. So we're going to do that one first. I will say right now, as far as this dough, and you can see this rose absolutely beautiful. This is the flatbread. Now there are several ways you can actually have done this. I made this plain for right now, but I will say that this dough, you could have seasoned it with more of an Italian seasoning. You could have added, which I am going to be doing that, but I should have added it to my dough. So you can add some basil, some thyme, oregano. You can add just Italian seasoning and some garlic powder, some salt and pepper. Just add any flavoring you want to, or you can leave it just like this. Now I am actually going to season mine, but after I get it rolled out to put on my pan to use towards my pizza. So I'm currently going to go ahead and take this out of my bowl. I am going to lightly flour my surface so that it does not stick, and I'm also going to roll it out. I'm just going to go ahead and it's going to make it easier, hopefully, doing this section to roll out my dough than in previous times when I was rolling out dough with y'all. That has been a trial with me, so I had to do something even easier for me. Now I pulled this out, and now I'm going to roll it. I'm also making sure that this don't stick to my rolling pin. And you don't have to be really fancy with this. Oh, wait. I'm going to get my scraper. It doesn't, if you wanted to make this round, you could. But most generally, flatbread is just that. It's a piece of flatbread, non-perfect, just rolled out crust, about 1/4 inch thick, and that's about it. So, and it can be a struggle to work with. So I'm just gonna basically roll this out till I have 1/4 inch thickness all the way through it, lightly coating my board so that it does not stick. And just like this is all you do to this. It's an imperfect crust that just gets rolled out. but a much beautiful flavoring to this. This is so much easier for me, y'all. So much easier. Okay, so now that I have this rolled out, I'm actually going to go put this on my great big cookie sheet, and we're going to go from here. Hot. Okay, so I'm actually going to pull this off, lay this on my pan, like so. Spread it out. And now I'm going to dress this up and make a Mediterranean style pizza. Now this one will not have any meat, just so you know that. And you all know by now I'm not a vegetarian, but sometimes for me I like to take a break from meat, and I just happen to like vegetables. I don't know what it is, but sometimes I just crave vegetables. And pretty much that's the reason, that's what I'm doing now. I don't mind meat at all, and I'll be honest with you, when I was doing low carb with my husband, sometimes, y'all, having all that meat just felt heavy on me. So sometimes I just need vegetables. So that's what I'm doing. Now I am putting finger dents in here, little pools. As you see, it will hold whatever sauce I'm fixing to use, and I am actually fixing to use a basil pesto on this one, along with brushing it with olive oil first. Then I'm actually going to season my crust. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next. Right now I'm going to lightly brush this with olive oil. And I'm going to drizzle on the top of my crust with that. So I'm just going to take, I don't go crazy here, and just spread a little bit of my olive oil all around my crust. This gives a very silky smooth crust, and the type of fat that I need, that's healthy fats. Oh, y'all, this is, whew, man, oh man, oh man. I've had this one before, and I can already taste it. It's absolutely amazing. And then I had those pools of olive oil in here. Oh. Okay, so there we go on that. So I got my olive oil. I'm next going to sprinkle my seasonings. And I am actually going to sprinkle some Italian seasoning all the way around my crust. Just like so. Then I'm going to sprinkle on some garlic powder. And again, my garlic powder is the homemade version from Fresh Garlic. I don't particularly like using the stores. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, I got spoiled, y'all. I got spoiled into this freshness. So, I don't know if you can hear them, but my quails are enjoying the sunshine. Alright, so now I am going to get this one started. So I am actually going to go ahead and spread some basil pesto on this next. And then I'm going to have to, I forgot to grate some mozzarella cheese, so I'll be doing that after I get this on here. So I'm going to just go ahead and just Put a good dollop of basil pesto on top of my crust, and I'm just going to spread this around, y'all. Just make a nice thin layer of this. This is when flavors just taste so good. On top of it, Mediterranean, I've noticed, it's just got some very pretty, really pretty colors, y'all. Very beautiful looking dishes on top of flavor, my goodness. Alright, so. And I will have plenty of leftovers for me. Alright, so there's my thin layer of my pesto. Now I'm going to go ahead and grate my cheese, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, y'all, so I have my cheese, and I'm just going to spread my cheese. Now, this is over the top of my basil pesto. So I'm just going to sprinkle this cheese, mozzarella cheese, all over the top of this. I have about a cup's worth on here. Okay. And then on top of this, I'm going to sprinkle some crumbled feta cheese on top of that. So I'm actually doing a 2 cheese layer for this. I'm going to finish off what I had on this mess here. So, and I'm just going to sprinkle this all around my pizza. Alright, so my next ingredient is I am going to take a couple pieces of mushroom. Spread this around on here. And I will be right back with you. Alright, so I'm going to put a couple pieces of mushroom on here. Some of these are going to be saved for James's pizza. I don't really want a whole lot of these, just a few pieces. Next ingredient I'm going to use are some sliced cherry tomatoes. Like so. I'm going to also add some sliced green and Kalamata olives. So, and you can slice this, or you can put these in half any way you want to. There's really no rule to this, and I'll explain that as soon as I get this made up. So I'm just going to basically cut these in half like so. Just like this. You can use regular black olives too if you wanted to. I didn't have any. This I did have, so I'm kind of using what I had. I'm just going to give a mixture of different olives just to add just a little bit of color balance to my pizza. I do use the block cheeses and grate my own. One, there isn't a coating on it. To me, it melts a lot easier than the stuff that's already pre-done. So I prefer to grate my own cheese. Everybody has their own preference. And just one more. Just like so. Now I have some purple onions that I'm going to add on top of that to add a little bit more color to it. And these are thinly sliced, so I'm just going to spread this around my pizza just like so. Again, you can use any type of onion you would like, or you can leave it out if you don't want onions on yours. This looks so pretty. Okay, so that takes care of my pizza. Now I'm just going to sprinkle this with a little bit of Himalayan sea salt. Oh wait, no, I got one more thing I want to put on mine. I am actually going to be adding some marinated artichoke quarters on this as well. I happen to love the flavor of artichoke, so I'm just gonna brush this around various areas of my pizza. Cut these down just a little bit. There we go. Some of these are really big pieces. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to finish. There wasn't a whole lot left. This was left over from a fish night that I made. So that took care of those. Now I am going to get I'm going to use Italian seasoning on this. I do not know where my towel is. I'm going to use one of my paper towels that I made up. Alright, so get my oregano or my Italian seasoning. I'm going to sprinkle this on top. And I'm going to add just a little bit of Himalayan sea salt. And then I am going to be baking this. Alright. So now I'm going to put this in the oven. I've got my oven preset for 425 degrees, and I am going to bake this just enough until the crust is golden and the cheese is melted, and we will be right back. Okay, y'all, so the Mediterranean style pizza. Many of you have been with me since the beginning when I started this channel. So you do know that I started the low carb with my husband, and I lost over 50-something pounds. I got to a point, I got down to 158, and my doctor told me I needed to put the brakes on from keep losing weight because I am 5'11", and it was going to get too much for me. So I, at that point, decided I was going to go ahead and quit smoking too, which was crazy because I ended up putting back on 10 pounds. But I needed to figure out something. Going from low carb straight to Mediterranean was not easy for me. And it took a process to understand how the heck was I going to do this. My carb limits at the time was 50 to 80, just like my husband's. Now that's a pretty low amount of carbs. And now I had to introduce carbs to be able to maintain. What I didn't understand at the time is, as I was introducing carbs back to my body, I've already put it through shock, I guess you could say, when I was doing low carb. So it was actually putting it through another stress shock. It was, oh my gosh, I'm now getting carbs and it doesn't know how to react with me. I didn't know how to react with it, to be honest with you, because I didn't know how to do this. I only assumed I did. It wasn't like I could go back to my everyday lifestyle. That wasn't working, and it's not going to work. What I have done now is I have put a limit on myself. My limit myself, and it's to do it gradually. Instead of 50 to 80 carbs, I am doing 80 to 100, and I'm going to tell you, I barely reached that 100, just like I barely reached that 80. So I am incorporating whole wheat pastas or things like this. Now I do not eat it with every meal. I will have whole wheat bread, or I will have, just like you're seeing, this flatbread, or I will have sourdough. But again, I am not eating this every single day. To me, I moderate this maybe 3 times a week if I'm going to have something like that. Now, because I will incorporate different carbs like my lentils, my beans. I will allow those type of foods to come into my life now and be able to accommodate them by eliminating so much. I'm going to be adding more complex than I am the simples. Now this is a simple, so I limit them to maybe 3 times in the week to help maintain. I'm finding this is working. I am now slowly losing what I had gained on top of exercising. So it's taken me a while. I started doing this almost 3 months ago, and it has been a roller coaster for me, y'all. But again, when I learn something, I share it with you. Now, as far as this pizza and the life of Mediterranean basically is not per se a recipe, and here's why. Mediterranean consists of all kinds of fruits, beans, legumes, peas, fruits, vegetables, nuts. It's a whole wide variety of things that you put together, assort, and make a meal. Now, I do add recipes when I'm doing this, but like this pizza, what I put on my pizza you might not like, and what's nice about this is you can put on anything you like. Now granted, I went without a meat. You may choose to put a meat on yours, and I get that. You may not want to do this Mediterranean whatsoever, and you just wanted to do an all-American pizza. Absolutely. The ingredients to make the flatbread will be in the description either way you want to go. But don't think that what I put on mine that's a set recipe, because there are so many other different type of vegetables. You might have wanted some bell peppers on yours instead of olives. So you may have wanted some green onions on it. So that's what I'm saying. Mediterranean isn't actually a standard recipe. It's a versatile type of thing. You make it your own. So what I put on mine might not work for you. Make it yours. I will just give you the recipe on how to do this. But I thought I'd explain Mediterranean, as you all now are noticing, how is she actually incorporating carbs? And I'm going to tell you, when I started this, when my doctor told me I needed to stop losing weight, I knew what it meant for me. I knew it had to start introducing carbs to maintain my weight. Y'all, I had been a heavy woman for over 20-something years. Over 200 pounds. Sometimes I reached up to 300. I have been 210 to 214 pounds for nearly 22 years. And when I lost all that weight down to 158, I was so excited, but also scared, because I do not want to be that old person I used to be. I was so tired. I couldn't do anything throughout my life anymore. I didn't have any energy. I just didn't have the will to do anything. And so when I changed my life to incorporate carbs, knowing, honestly, I don't know how to do this. It's been trial and error, and it's been try to figure out what works for me. So what's working for me, I will not go back putting the type of carbs I used to know. I will limit the amount still, but enough to maintain my weight. I will up it just slightly, and I'm going to try that instead. I'm going to figure this out till it works, but I'm making sure, because I will put the brakes on y'all and go back to low carb until I figure it out, lose my weight. I don't like this yo-yo game. It's hard on me, it's hard on my body, but I do not want to be that person. I don't know, honestly, how to use my carbs right. Mediterranean lifestyle is teaching me how to do that. So like my pizza, I'm going to have a couple slices of my pizza, and I'm going to have a side salad with that. And that's going to be my meal tonight. I probably won't see a simple bread source like that for the next couple days. So, but I may introduce, like my beans. I happen to have a bean recipe, a Kalmata bean recipe that is out of this world. It's a complex type of carb, breaks down slowly, great source of fiber, nutrients, protein, and so these are the things that I'm incorporating. I may take a small sweet potato and use it in my dish. I may take a small 1 or 2 red potatoes. I'm very particular of what type of vegetable I will use, and I will not spread. If I happen to use, for instance, a sweet potato, I will not be putting any bread source with that dish, because to me that's enough carbs. If I added that, and then I'll add my simple carbs of my 2 or 3 slices of bread, and or we put a pasta. No, I'm just not doing that no more. That was my old life. So I'm going to choose my carbs wisely. I am going to keep my limits to no more than 100 carbs. When I actually could go higher, I choose not to. So this is how I'm going to maintain. And I honestly love the flavoring of Mediterranean. It's a way of life that I can honestly live the rest of my life with. It's not a fad diet. It's not something that I can't stick with. It's simple, and I can do this. And that's what I want. I want something I can stick with. I want something, let me check my pizza, yo. It's getting there. I want something I can stick with. I want something that is very simple. And that's the same thing when I come up with these dishes that I find that are low carb. It is something that my husband can live with. It's simple. It's something he enjoys. And it's something that will control his blood sugar without the medication, as we have been doing for nearly now 2, almost 3 months. So, and we're proud. We're happy. We've worked hard to figure this out. And that's why I share it with you. So again, this right now, what I'm working on is the Mediterranean side. We are getting ready, which is the reason for this pan, we're getting ready for the low carb pizza side. And I know there's going to be a lot of low carb people that are super happy to see this one. So we will be right back. Okay, y'all, so our pizza is now out of the oven. And at this point, I could take some fresh parsley, chop it up, and sprinkle over the top of it. But I'm actually going to be chopping up some arugula. I'm putting some arugula, a nice peppery flavor, on the top of my pizza. And I'm also going to add some of this in my salad. I'm going to give you a closer look at this in just a moment. Show you what my Mediterranean pizza will be like for supper tonight. Now I'm going to bring you around. And there it is, y'all. This is what I love about the Mediterranean food. The colors, the vibrant flavors. It's just like I said before, over and over, to me it's like having a party in my mouth. It can be kind of devastatingly overwhelming sometimes because it tastes so good, and it can be dangerous, so I really got to watch myself. But this is the Mediterranean pizza. Now I'm actually getting into the low carb pizza. Now I understand, y'all, this is a long video, but when I do videos like this, when I do half and half, half low carb, and then half for actually everyday life, Mediterranean, whatever, they tend to be a little bit longer because I am accommodating both sides. So I hope you bear with me when I end up having videos this long. I am so sorry. Now I will get to the next one right now. Okay, y'all, now onto the low carb side. I am going to take my 14-inch size pizza pan. I am actually going to do a light coating spray on this to keep my crust from sticking. And I'm actually going to take my crust. Now this, you can do this by 2 if you wanted to and make it thinner, or you could do it with 1. Hubby tends to like this kind of thick, so he always liked this thick crust. Now this one here is much harder to roll. So what I tend to do, honestly, is I will use my fingers and I will press, which is one reason why I spray it first. It helps to do this. But I am going to take any of the thick sides and spread this evenly throughout this entire pan. And as you see, it's covering it very nicely. Again, this will get thick, and you'll see. But he likes this. I mean, he wanted to. He could take the crust ends of this, dip it in marinara sauce if he wanted, or in garlic butter, like you would from Pizza Hut. Make your own garlic butter sauce and dip your crust ends in it if you wanted to. So I'm just actually going to keep spreading this out a little bit. Make sure that it's even all the way around. That one side isn't more than the other, because we are actually, before we put any toppings on this, we're going to bake this for 10 minutes first. And then it'll go through the second baking once all the toppings on it for 6 to 10 minutes. So I'm actually going to go ahead at this point now. I pretty much have everything. Now my ends came up a little, so I'm just going to curl these over and kind of make a nice crust base line here. It gives you kind of that feeling of a thick crust pizza. At least it does for hubby. He likes this one. He asked me last time I made him with the pizza, and his honest answer was, "What? You didn't give me my other pizza crust?" I just looked at him and thought, how spoiled he really is. But I made him that way. Alright, y'all. So now this is going to go in the oven, and we're going to let this bake for 10 minutes. Once that 10 minutes is up, we'll come back and we'll start fixing this pizza up. Okay, y'all. So this crust just came out of the oven. Still slightly golden, but like you said, the next round it goes back in the oven, and this time it will have the toppings, and you're just going to actually heat it up until your cheese melts. So I'm going to try and give you an idea what this crust looks like. You'll see that it is thick. Y'all, it will absolutely hold up per slice. Again, this is 1.8 grams of carbs. I had to show this crust to you. It's blown our mind, and it actually is really good. If I wanted to ruin it, I could actually tear this right down in half to show you it's a crust. Now I'm going to try to do this because it just came out of the oven. I'll show you right now. The whole thing holds holds up just like this. So, I mean, it is really good, and it tastes more like a whole wheat than anything. So now we're going to dress it up for his pizza. And at this point, you can see by the thickness of this crust, you can use it to dip in your marinara or garlic butter, which I may actually do that. Honestly, I may take up some olive oil, mix it with some garlic, some salt, some Italian seasoning, and we will actually have that as a good fat source to dip our pizza in. Now, I will say with me, yes, I understand that low carb is also a rather kind of high fat type of food. However, for us right now, though we are eating less carbs, we are also watching how much fat that we are putting into our body at this point. Again, we are looking to maintain, we are not looking to massively lose anymore. So these are things we have to watch. So I'm going to go ahead and start next, and I am going to, I've made up some homemade pizza topping. Now, I will not use very much in this because everybody knows when you use the tomato paste can tend to have too much carbs and sugar. So I use just a little bit, and I am going to spread this evenly all the way around this crust. The rest of this sauce will be put into a dish and literally frozen for another time. I understand that there are some sauces and stuff out there that we can purchase, but like everybody else, sometimes we just can't do that, and I use what I have on hand. I just learned to use things moderately. I learned to use them by counting. We don't necessarily count our carbs too much. We don't necessarily count our calories or anything like that, or our fat counts. We pretty much can tell by what we eat and what it does with our body. So I just know that as much as I would love to, there is a site I found that has basically low carb, no sugar, everything you can think of. But it is rather expensive, and I could choose to do that. And if things start freaking up for us, you can almost guarantee I will be going to that site. It's like going to Azure Standards, but this is made for low carb diabetic families. So now, my next ingredient. Now, hubby does like his meats, and he likes his pizzas that are pretty much what he calls garbage pizza. He likes everything on it. So I am going to start with some mushrooms on his. Though he will have more vegetables than he will meat, he's still going to get his meat. But again, it's going to be more or less fat, a better, healthier option. Alright, so we have our mushrooms. The rest of these mushrooms, I'll use this to put inside of a omelet for him for breakfast in the morning. Do you remember that bell pepper that we went harvesting with? Well, we're going to be using part of this on here. So I'm going to scoop this aside, and I'm going to cut some slices of this beautiful homegrown bell pepper and put that on his pizza. Man, the fresh smell from this is amazing. Again, the rest of this can be used to go for an omelet for him in the morning. And now I'm just going to basically put this all over his pizza. He tends to like his cheese on top of his pizza, not so much on the bottom. So that's the reason why I do this. Now I'm also going to give him some red onions. Now he's not going to get any olives on his. Usually he likes the black olives. And then later we can add some pepperoncinis on the side. You can actually, if you wanted to, cut up some banana pepper rings and put that on here. This is again one of those fix it yourself. I will give you the crust recipe and you make your pizza any way you choose to make it. Anything that makes you happy, your heart's content, and something your family will enjoy, and you can enjoy a whole lot nicer than going without. I'm just going to help bring, if you didn't know, I'm going to help you bring pizza night back into your home. Alright, y'all, so now I am going to be adding our turkey pepperoni on here. I'm just going to be putting this all over it. That one didn't want to go in there. It's going on here now. And I pretty much watched my carbs that I ate today so that I could accommodate for that pizza, if you're wondering how I managed to do that. So I actually did an intermittent fasting for breakfast this morning. I had a tuna salad for lunch, and so that left me enough that I could eat my pizza this evening. Now I'm going to go with the good stuff on top, that ooey gooey cheese. Spread all over the top of this. Spread it evenly. And then I'm going to come back with another dose with Parmesan cheese on top of that. And then this is going to go in the oven just until our cheese melts. Y'all see how this looks? By looking at this pizza, you would never know, and I'm going to tell you, you'd never know that this husband of mine is a diabetic. That's why I love to be able to find things like this, because when he sees food like this, he doesn't even feel different. He doesn't even acknowledge the fact, I'm not to the point where it's dangerous. He does acknowledge he has an issue, but it doesn't make him feel like, I don't know, he's less than whatever. He started feeling really, really bad because the world treats him different. And that's not fair. And I know many of you have gone through the same thing. We can only imagine, based by what we're going through, we can only imagine what you're going through. So I create these videos because with me, I'll say it over and over, y'all. You have a friend, you have a sister, you have somebody who loves and adores and cares for you, and I am not going to treat you different. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring you a blessing and make you feel like you're part of the family. So now let's get this in the oven. I'm going to bake this until our cheese melts. I will bring you back to show you what this pizza looks like. Okay, y'all, and here is our pizza. Out of the oven, and that's our low carb pizza. But I'm not done. I want to show you one more thing before we end this session. I'm actually going to take this out of here and I'm going to cut this for you to show you just how close this actually comes out and why we love Ketoserts. This recipe was absolutely amazing to stumble upon versus everything, and it's not a fathead dough. It's actually a very pleasant tasting pizza crust. So I'm going to also try to do this, and I am going to literally cut this for you. So I'm going to go directly down the center. Get that cut. Let me get a different knife. It's hot, so I didn't let it cool down first. And now I'm going to actually cut some slices off of this for you. And yes, this is too much for one person. We do have his and hers pizzas. But what's nice, at this moment we have frozen pizzas. So I can actually make other meals out of the remaining of what's left of this. Now I am going to cut this, just like it said, into 8 pieces. I have to get hubby to cut or to sharpen my knives here. Alright, y'all, you want to make sure this holds just like an ordinary pizza. Well, that's what I'm doing this for. I wanted to show you. Now, I'm just going to hold the edges. I'm not going to hold this bottom. I'm going to show you just like this, like I would hold an ordinary pizza. That's it. It is holding just like an ordinary pizza does. It's got a beautiful crust, and I don't know if you can see this. I'm bringing it in as close as I can, but it's got a nice bottom to it. Y'all, this is as close to a pizza as you're going to get with each slice. Just the dough alone, mind you, but each slice of this is 1.8 grams of carbs. So this gives you a chance to enjoy your pizza, and it brings me joy to bring this to your family. So I'm hoping Friday night pizzas in many homes who have to deal with low carb or diabetics, I hope I just saved your pizzas and gave you hope once again. See, the one thing I have learned, and it's been on my mind a lot lately, I have to say, on the path where I've been, I keep going to the fact that the good Lord left the 99 to go after that one. And I'm really glad he went after me, because if he didn't, if he would have done like the world does us, because we are so different, if he would have done that to us, we would have never had a prayer of a chance. Instead, today's world, they chase after the 99 and leave that one behind. Well, I don't. I'm the one that Jesus helped. He came after, and I'm the one he is using to help others just like us. So I'm hoping you enjoyed this. I'm hoping I brought you hope. My husband, I know, is going to be a happy camper when he eats his own pizza. And yes, we now have a his and hers. We do have leftovers so that we can freeze this later and have another pizza night together. So this is amazing. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Much love to each and every one of you. Until next time, we'll see you again from Parton's Heritage Homestead.